All right, Mike Dowd. Mike, you were one of my favorite storytellers that I've had on my channel. Your first video was a magnificent example of what I look for on my channel.
Thanks.
One of my favorites, maybe my all-time favorite. But we didn't really get into the conversation. You just told your story, and that was basically it last time.
Right.
And there's a lot of questions I would love to ask. So you're back, and we can do that. You were a corrupt cop in New York City. This is the 80s?
Well, so I started in 82. By the time I was corrupted in 84, 5-ish, like that, so till 92.
And it was pretty bad, right?
So the city was bad, and as an outgrowth of that, I adapted to my environment in a way that was antisocial, really, right?
Yeah, but you have to factor in there's some other factors that affected that. What you were paid at the time was what?
Right. So my salary at the time when I signed at the police academy was $17,000 a year, and when I graduated the police academy, it was like $18,500. And by the time I was actually a seasoned, quote unquote, veteran cop with like 2 or 3 years experience, my salary was probably $24,000 a year.
Wow. It seems like cops, firemen, school teachers are all like just terribly underpaid.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I mean that's the underbelly of our society that keeps us floating from day to day between educating our children, keeping the streets safe, and keeping people from dying.
Yeah, no, I mean, if there was ever a job that should be paid well, you would think it'd be a cop.
Yeah,
or a
yeah. The unfortunate thing is we take those jobs knowing that they're not well-paying jobs, but we find some sort of altruistic value in them. But as it turns out, it gets how would you say? It gets minimized quite quickly. Your purpose, because it's a system, Mark, and like any governmental system. There's less appreciation and more requirements as you get deeper into them.
And is there, like on the police force, was there like this general consensus that you guys are underappreciated?
So it's a dichotomy here, like because it's a wonderfully at the time, being a police officer was fairly well respected. So you were considered a professional. So you as you were a blue collar, but you were considered a professional. So it had a little a way of raising you above society, but you actually were paid less than most people in society. So it came with some pride. Unfortunate thing is, you didn't really feel that you were appreciated.
And then all of a sudden an opportunity to make real serious money comes along and get away, probably getting away.
So if you remember the 7-5 documentary, in the documentary itself, there's a close-up of the girl, Kenny Urell's wife who passed, and she goes, money feels good. So money feels good. And yeah, so I think appreciation and money go hand in hand. If someone does a good job at your house and they're underpaid, they really don't appreciate or feel the appreciation. What a painter! What a wonderful job! He leaves the house, he still can't pay for gas in his car. That's,
One of the things I believe, and I've been this way with employees, people that work with me. But like let's take an artist, but you can call a police officer an artist, or fireman, or a doctor, or a lawyer, or anything. When that person feels that they are really appreciated, they're going to give their all. When they feel underappreciated, they're just not going to give their all.
Yeah, yes, and the quality diminishes.
Yeah, and what you want are people working for you who really are into it.
Really, yeah. So, and in the police world, you get that where you get guys that are sloppy in their approach, that don't take the job serious in the fact that while there may be something that they should handle in a more professional manner, because they're not appreciated, listen, it's not right? We know this, but that's what happens. There is human nature involved in humans. Mm-hmm. That's why it's human nature.
I mean, so you went from being a normal citizen to, and all of a sudden you become a prisoner. You're in prison. You're a convict, and you get out eventually. How many years did you do?
So I was sentenced. So people don't know this, and let me just give you a little approach. So when I was arrested by the feds in 1992, when I walked in the door, I was facing life in prison. And if people don't understand what that feels like, when they closed the door on me the first night, I was in what they call isolation, segregation, the hole. When they closed the door on me the first night, I looked at my surroundings, which was like maybe it was 12 by 7 wide. It was cold as hell. And I said, this is my life for the rest of it. Like, that's the first day. And I mean, if you think about that audience for a moment, and people, I know you have a very wide audience, I know that there's people in that audience that are listening that know that moment. And then to work your way out of that, we've only did a 14-year federal prison sentence, which came down to 12 years, 5 months, and 20-something days. I can't give you the hours, but so right? It's a blessing, right? Think about it. I was blessed. I walked in a prison facing life, and I came out 12 and a half years later. And part of the thing that you and I want to discuss a little bit, I believe, is that after doing that time, I'm supposed to be welcomed back into society.
What happened?
Well, it doesn't work that way. I found out, and I'm sure many people in your audience have felt that as well. So I ended up trying to get a job. First of all, I was on supervised release for 5 years. Now, mind you, I came out really, first of all, I was fearful. I wanted to go back, so I don't want to diminish that. The first 30 days, I wanted to go back to prison.
You wanted to go back to
prison? I wanted to go back to prison. I stood in the shower in my mother's home. I don't know if I ever told this story to you guys. I stood in the shower in my mother's home, my first shower in freedom. And as the shower was hit, just before, maybe because people check me, just before I got in the shower, I looked out the window and I saw my brother's 2 children. And I didn't know their names. And now think about that for a moment. You have a brother, one of my 7 siblings or 6 siblings, 7 of us, and he's got 2 boys, and they're not infants, they're like young boys, and I don't even know their names. And I step into the shower, and the water's hitting me from the shower, and the tears just open up. For the first time in my life since this incarceration, I was able to freely let out all, and I don't even know what it is. And maybe there's somebody out there that can help me with it. I don't know what I was letting out. Because it was sorrow, it was loss, it was fear, it was every emotion that a person can go through that they gave up. And as I was recollecting my thoughts, I mean, I was exasperated. I was leaning against the wall in the shower, and the tears were making me wetter than the water. That's how severe it was. And I was just trying to gather my thoughts and calm down, because I'm in a home with my parents now, and they haven't seen me outside of prison in 12 and a half years, plus the 10 years prior that I left their home, right? And or whatever the numbers were at this point. And I'm trying to collect my thoughts. Why am I so emotionally fraught at this point? And it came to me that I didn't know what I was going to do with the rest of my life. Like, I don't even know these children's name next door. I really don't know my own kids. 2 boys, one that lives out here and one that lives in Long Island. 4 grandkids I have now. And I don't even know, what am I going to do? How am I going to matriculate through society as a guy that used to be a police officer, that finished his federal sentence, and I have no really hands-on skills. I'm a labor guy. I can fix this. I can lift that. I can move. I can drive. So I have some functionality to earn a living, but I don't see it as a very fruitful, prospectful future. And I end up really just wanting to go back to prison. So that's the moment that I wanted to go back to prison. And now I needed to recollect my thoughts, because I was around my parents for the first time in freedom. And I didn't want them to smell the fear, So I collected my thoughts, I took the shower, I calmed down. I took a moment to calm down. Because one of the things about prison you learn is to slow down. So I slowed down, I thought things through, and I said, what I'm gonna do is the best I can do each day. So I started to rebuild a life. And part of the things that get thrown at guys that do time and come out is there's a gap in their life. So think about it. I was a police officer at 21 years old. At 43 years old, 44 years old, I now have to fill out an application for a job. What do I put? NYPD, prison. I mean, it's like not a good position to be in. And it led to quite a difficult time. In fact, so I ended up becoming what you would call a local, I was your local handyman, okay? I did a lot of work. My brother was involved in some construction. And I did fairly well. Financially, I did okay. But it wasn't a life's dream to be swinging hammers and banging on nails for the next 30, 40 years. And I wasn't that good at it, okay? I was okay, but I could make a living. But I didn't want to be the lead guy on the job, okay? And so that was the life I was faced with. And I was very full of, I want to say, fear because of what am I going to do in my 40s now? So now I'm 62. But in my 40s, I'm not a young man anymore starting out like I just graduated college or high school and I'm going to start a 30-year career in a union job. So it was a very difficult position to be in. However, I end up back in a union job, and here's where it flips, Mark, and this is what upsets me. I end up going to school, spending for trade school, my own money, no student loan repayment program, my own money, I spend it, and I get the trade I'm looking for, which was operating engineer, which I'm licensed today to run the big chillers in buildings and plants. And it's quite a license to get. It's significant. And it's probably today $150,000 to $200,000 a year job. So I land a job at a hospital by my home, and I'm just putting it out there, South Oaks. And anybody in your audience, many people will know South Oaks because it's a rehab center. And one of the bonuses to getting this job was that it was in a rehab center. And being I had this past, they would be easily willing to accept that. So when I filled out the application, I got promoted into this job. They were like, no problem, we understand. This is a rehab place. Everybody's on the second trip around here. Great. Then the documentary shows up. And in the beginning, it was received okay. But eventually, after a while, HBO or Showtime picked it up. And when they picked it up, it went global. And now the eyes are starting to look at this hospital that this individual, Michael Dowd, works in. And then the phone starts ringing. And all I can tell you is I get called in one day and to the office, right? Now, in the hospital I worked in, if anybody knows about it, and your audience will, because you have a vast audience, it's about a mile long from where I was to where I had to go report. So on my way there, I'm saying to myself, do I need a lawyer? It was like a joke in my head, right? So I'm reporting to the office. I sit down and I look in the room and I look at these two guys. One's my direct supervisor and one's my superior supervisor. They're all good supervisors, right? So they look at me and I go, what's up? Do I need a lawyer? Like typical Dowd statement. What do I need a lawyer? And they look at me and they sort of put their head down and they go, no, but we have to suspend you. I'm like, you guys are joking, right? I says, did I do something wrong? They go, no. Your work, my work, is something wrong? No, but you're walking around here talking about maybe doing a book or a movie as a result of this 7-5 documentary. So you're promoting your own personal business while at work. So we're gonna have to suspend you for promoting your personal business at work. I said, wait a minute. Because, I'm not stupid and I'm all quiet. I go, wait a minute. So your employees, my coworkers, are asking me questions about my life. And by answering them, I'm going to lose my job. We'll be suspended at least. Well, we have to do it. And I looked at the both of them and I said to you, someone made a phone call to you and they said that their family or their life is in danger because I'm here and that there might be retribution sought against me because I was a police officer and quote unquote shook down drug dealers. This is how this conversation went. And they looked at me and they went like this. No. That's what they did. I said, okay. Turn around, I left. Well, on the way out the door, I realized that I actually got injured today. So I turned it back around and I went back into I don't know, you can't, my whole right side is mangled. People don't know this, but anyway, so I ended up taking a mark for being injured at work that day, and we ended up in a long battle with them. So there was a settlement made at some point. But not to fail to mention the fact that I lost a $150,000 a year job because the 7/5 documentary came out and someone made a phone call. So that goes back to the subject that you and I broached earlier slightly, that we said, when does it end? When does the retribution for your being a convict or committing a crime, when does it end? I'm a little bit of numbers guy, and anybody that knows me in your channel, I'm sure they know me by now. I'm a numbers guy. I do the math real quick. 10, 15 years, I lost a $150,000 a year job. 10 years is $1.5 million, right? So I've given up a lot of money to do that documentary, and then of course, when I speak to the guys in LA, they go, yeah, hang in there, kid. Yeah, they don't care about you much. So this is the life I've had to live. And what that brings me back to the beginning of the question. When does it end? Why do I have to continually be pigeonholed? And you're a bad guy. You've always been a bad guy. You've never done anything good. I mean, I'm trying. I'm human. I'm flawed.
You're walking a straight line now.
I walk a straight line now. Listen, there are days when I'm a little more crooked on some of the lines, but the fact is this: I do the best I can to be a better human every day. I mean, you and I have a little bit of a relationship, Mark, and in a good way, And I think that I'm direct and honest.
Absolutely.
And I think that's all we can want from the guy next to us. To be direct and be honest and carry your weight. And I think I do all that. And so I try to portray that in everything I do. And I'm flawed. We're all flawed.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that a man or a woman, person who has made a huge mistake like you did and paid a price for it and dealt with it, however you deal with your mistakes, and then come out the other side, is a more well-rounded, evolved person than one who has never done anything wrong and walked a straight line?
I love this question. And you know why? Because that's what I make my living on today. And I use that term loosely. My phone, and you've seen it while I'm here go off several times, not during the interview, but prior. My phone doesn't stop. And why? Because people respect and appreciate my experience now. Because the more, a guy can start 10 businesses, 8 or 9 of them probably will fail. But by the time the 10th one succeeds, he's had all the experiences and pitfalls in life. So this is probably going to be a damn good business, the one that succeeds. And so I fell down a few times in life, and people seem to find that, I don't want to say if it's attractive or alluring, but and I use this example, and I may have said it on your show, so I don't want to sound repetitive, but I have cops reach out to me, and civilians today, not just cops, now civilians as well, that have either trouble in their life, they're running into trouble in their life, or they don't know where to go or what to do. And I think I've become quite a decent sounding board, number one, because people sometimes just, and you know this, sometimes people just want to be listened to. Mm. And they want to be able to say it, and they don't necessarily want you to solve it. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll listen, and I'll say, well, do you want me to help you by giving you some of my experiences and how they turned out? Otherwise, because you're going to do what you're going to do. But if I tell you the path I took and what I did at this moment, did I go to AA meetings? Did I call a drug dealer? What did I do at this moment of my life? If I share that with you, one, you don't have to take it, but two, I'm giving of myself. And like we saw when I came in here about the dollar thing, when I told you about before, like that 62 years of experience. It might not be a good experience, but there's 62 years that every word that we utter and everything we do for somebody else, it comes with that time invested. Mark, you do some good things. I know you do. You've done it in the past, and myself, I try. But everything you do comes from all of that hard work that people don't see what came before this. But to put this camera on me and to set this thing up, people just can't do this. They think they can.
Mm-hmm. And make it look easy.
Well, you make it look easy, but because the guy that comes in your house and paints your house in 2 hours, he's been doing it for 40 years. That's why you pay him as much as you pay the guy that takes 3 days. Because his experience and his wisdom got him through your house in 2 hours. Where the other guy's still there 3 days later. He may do the same quality job, but the fact is that this guy knows, those of us with experience know the pitfalls. I mentor a lot of guys on, today it's said Oxy, right? And Oxy is very close to fentanyl. And you know, a friend of ours who lost his daughter, John, lost his daughter. And I'm sure you know many people that lost their people in fentanyl. And I keep telling my buddy, you got to understand something. It's all good till it's not. And then it's too late. I'm not a preacher. I just point it out. And so right now I'm actually taking a guy through fentanyl withdrawals. Not fentanyl, I'm sorry, because I used the wrong term. Oxy withdrawals. I mean, guys spending $1,000 a day on OxyContin. That's $30,000 a month. I mean, so I do what I can each day, Mark, and I just don't like being attacked, Mark, okay? I don't like being attacked, and you and I have discussed this before, and we thought we'd discuss it a little bit, you know. We open ourselves and we become vulnerable when we come on shows like this, and we do it for many purposes. I do it oftentimes to help others and to help myself. I'm a little selfish. I'm normal, I'm human. Coming on your show and coming on some of the other shows that I've done, and you know that I've done a host of shows, I do it to purge myself sometimes, and then sometimes get a chance to measure where I'm at in life. And sometimes, and I get this, he's stammering, he's lying, he's high. No, sometimes my thoughts and my words aren't connecting exactly at the same exact time. So, I mean, you've heard people make fun of, not just myself, but others on your show. Yeah. They're stammering, they're lying. And I'm like, listen, we're all human here. You know, you have a wonderful audience, huge. And when people come on here and expose themselves, I mean, you got some pretty crazy motherfuckers.
Takes a lot of courage.
Takes a lot. I mean, I've seen, listen, my courage level is not near some of these other guys, you know, and I just use pedos like you've interviewed and incestuous people that you've interviewed and all the other stuff that goes on. That to me is like, wow. And you know what? You're doing them a service, even though, and they get attacked. And it's because I read some of the comments on your shows.
Yeah, they get crucified.
But the one thing about it is people learn from those people that you put up on here. And some of the people that they're helping, and I hope I do the same, Mark, some of the people that they're helping are the people that are in their closet somewhere saying, this is what I've done. What do I do? How do I get through this? And maybe, hey, this is not a public service, Mark, but maybe it is, right? Maybe you're saving someone else every time you turn that camera on. I lost a job with the NYPD. Now listen, I'm going to go back to that for a minute. The most illustrious police department in the world, right? NYPD. Movies are made about it. Scripts are written about them. Cartoons over them. Headlines in every tabloid in the world. NYPD. In fact, Mark, you got to tell his audience a story if they missed it. So a friend of mine, retired police officer who has PTSD really bad. His brother died 9/11, lung disease. He was on the pile for 8 months himself, vouchering livers. Like that's what they were doing there. Picking up a liver, putting a tag on it. Like that's what went on there. And he was that guy. He was there for a long time. He doesn't like going across bridges anymore. He's nervous. This happens to people. I've never been aware of this in my life, but it happens. There's many people that won't cross a bridge. Anyway, so he asks me to go with him to One Police Plaza. Now, I've been in One Police Plaza before, by the way, just so you know. So I go in with him, and they usher him in because he's got his ID on him, and he's there to get a new police ID, a re-up. So I go in with him, and I put my identification, my license up, because they want to see who's coming and going in their buildings. And they go, don't worry about it, you're with him, go. So I go upstairs. And sure enough, he's waiting to meet the sergeant to get his new identification. It's set up nice, they handled him nicely. In the meantime, I look to my left, and there's this podium. It says, retirement, like congratulations, you're retired. Now, if anybody knows me, I'm a little bit of a joker, but I'm also a self-deprecating asshole, right? And I like to shine the light on what I gave up in life. And that's part of why I speak. So I walk up to this podium and I tell my buddy, take a picture of me here. I said, I never got my exit photo. When you leave, it's called an exit photo. You retire. I said, and I want to take this photo and I want to put it on my social media so that I can show the people around me that follow me specifically that this is what I gave up. So he takes the picture of me. I put it up on my social media, and don't you know,
You got in trouble.
Don't you know? The shit hits the fan. They're calling me a piece of shit. Did you snort cocaine off the railing on the way up to take the picture? You should be taking it up the ass. I mean, the things they said about me. You should have died of anal cancer in prison. All the shit they said. I'm like, and I get one message from a woman, a pretty detailed message, and she tells me why I'm a piece of shit. And you know what? I believed her. I believed her, Mark, because she made the point that there's a lot of people that sacrifice their whole life to get to that post and to take that picture. And I was about to take the picture down because of what she said, but she called me a piece of shit. Now, had she but words matter, right? Words matter. You know, if she had said to me, Mike, listen, you did your time. You don't deserve to be ostracized or publicly disgraced anymore, but that picture is a little bit out of taste. I would have took it right down, Mark. I would have. But because she chose to bash me along the way, her and then another 100 people on top of her after she initially bashed me, I refused to take it down. I get a phone call from the New York Post or one of those. Dad, we're doing an article that you were in headquarters taking a picture at the retirement thing. I said, yeah, what do you want to know? They go, why were you there? I told them. I said, my friend was PTSD. He needed an escort. He wanted someone to go with him. He's a retired New York City sergeant. I think I did him a favor. I said, yeah, I took the picture. I said, but if you know my background, I'm self-deprecating that this is what...
You did your time.
I did my time. This is what I gave up. I'm flattered and humbled by the fact that the people do this and that I didn't get that chance.
You're not still a criminal?
Yeah, I'm clean. So, front page of the Post... Now the police commissioner is doing an investigation. How did he get in the building? I mean, it turned into a zoo. The Daily Mail in UK is calling. They're running a 3-page article in the United Kingdom. Fast forward 6-7 weeks later, the phone rings. It's another newspaper from New York. They want to know, we understand you're... Now I don't even know nothing. I know nothing, Mark. I know nothing. You're banned from One Police Plaza. I go, excuse me? I'm banned from One Police Plaza. They said, yes, your picture is posted on the wall in 1PP at the entrance zone that you're banned. I said, well, isn't it a public building? How am I banned from a public building? They said, well, you're banned. So the Post ran with it, the Daily Mail ran with it again, or the Newsday ran with it. So it became a circus. So it's like, Mark, it's like, I want to pinch myself sometimes, like, yeah, I was a corrupt cop. Yeah, they call me the dirtiest cop ever. But, we all know that that's not true. I didn't kill anybody by the grace of God. And the fact is that, yeah, I did my time, Mark. And people need to understand that I got no pension. I got no medical coverage. I came out broke. And today I borrowed the jacket from somebody. Okay, it's a nice jacket, but I borrowed it. So I'm of little means today, and that's okay. I keep my world small. I get treated out to some nice dinners once in a while for a good conversation, and I do the best I can.
What do you think's wrong with society that we're all so eager to crucify others?
Well,
because everyone understands you did your time. You're now a free man.
Yeah.
You're no longer doing the things you did.
So these are the things that come at me. You should have known better, right? I was a police officer. I should have known better. You're expected to be above reproach, and you should have known better. Okay, so the problem that I've run into with that statement is I should have known better. I did know better. But you were raised over here, and you knew better too. You just didn't have a gun and badge. But you knew better. Your parents told you not to sell drugs, not to skip school, not to have sex with 17-year-old girls when you're 18. There's a lot of things that happen in life. But people forget that you're human. Like, I'm human. I'm fallible. I'm fallible. It happens. So back to the original question from you is, why do people do this? Like, why do people expect more and they're unforgiving of a guy like myself? And sometimes I think, and I think it's this, right? What's to say? You point the finger at me, there's 3 or 4 pointing back at me. If I point one at you, there's 3 or 4 pointing back at me.
We're very, very eager to condemn.
Yeah, they're eager to condemn. So usually that's those people that are loud in condemning are trying to distract from themselves. But I will say this, Mark, and this is the truth.
Projecting their own guilt.
Yes. As a flip side to that, many people that you would never expect are forgiving. And that's the real joy of this. And that's why sometimes coming on and sharing your story in forums like this, I really found out there's a lot of people that are willing to forgive. And that's the nice thing. And I think that...
And they're also less likely to leave a comment on a social media platform.
Yes. They are less likely, but
There's
yes.
Plenty of people that watch this channel
Plenty of people
that
yes.
don't make comments
Yes.
ever.
I think it's 1 in 10 makes a comment, maybe. It's less than that. 1 in 100.
But the ones that are most likely to make a comment
Yeah.
are typically the ones that are...
Right, correct. Typically,
eager to hate.
Typically, the haters. But you know what? In this industry, Mark, and you and I both will be honest, haters really make it go. They do make a big difference.
Oh, in terms of views?
Yes, haters do help.
Yeah, I don't care about that.
You don't care about views, I know that. But haters actually build an audience because you know why? People will rally around the individual that's exposing themselves. That happens quite often. Like if one of the guys on your channel that throws some hate at me, you'll get half a dozen or a dozen people to say, yeah, well, you know, what would you do if you were in Dowd's situation?
Those are my favorite comments.
Yes, yeah, that's...
When somebody straightens out somebody that just doesn't get it.
Yes, correct. Yeah, that's very helpful, and I appreciate that about your audience. You have a great audience, bro. I mean, I'm not trying to...
I'm so proud of how evolved my audience is.
Yes, they're
incredibly
really...
evolved.
Yes, yeah, and it's...
Intelligent.
It's quite the form.
Compassionate.
Yeah.
So forgiving, just...
That's what really
So
I
proud
like.
of that.
The forgiving part is what I like because anybody can get up here and get bashed, and people out in your audience can bash. But you know, what? That's not what
an easy thing to do.
You're exposing the underbelly of society, and the people that come on here are the underbelly of
I'm
society.
making it easy for you if you're just looking to hate.
Yeah, if you want to hate, just go ahead. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah.
You're taking the easy way out. I think there's a Carl Jung quote: "Thinking is difficult, which is why people judge."
It's quick.
Something like that.
It's done. They cut you right out.
Rather than figuring it out,
right,
and understanding maybe why you did the things you did,
right,
and forgiving because now you've done your time. You're just going to hate. It's simple.
Here's how I look at this.
The simpleton's way
from
out.
this perspective. I look at it like this. If you want to discuss something with someone, don't start off with hate, because now you shut the door. And you know, our society is going through a lot of turmoil right now. You know that, and your audience knows who I am. I've been called I've been called a Trumper and all that other shit. And his mannerisms are just like Trump. They attack me. But what I am is I'm a true-blooded. I love my country and I love my people. And I say my people, I mean anybody that will have a discussion with me, because that's how we make it all work, Mark. Having a conversation. It's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're a very interesting character because you were called a racist at some point. Like that was the most ridiculous comment ever. You
said, we don't answer that.
You say the word Puerto Rican, and all of a sudden you're a racist. Like that's a derogatory.
I didn't know that. I thought that was a prideful thing.
Puerto Rican women are beautiful. I mean, what?
Oh well, you know that. Don't get me in trouble on camera, you.
Yeah. So now your life goes where?
Yeah, so Mark, what's interesting is this, and this has actually been going on now for 9 years since the documentary came out. I've been owned by different studios. I started out with Sony, then Columbia, then there's one other company I'm going to forget, and then Prime ended up owning me for a while. Right now, I'm actually in the middle. I'm negotiating with Prime, and I'm negotiating with somebody else to do
a movie,
a TV series, and a movie. And we're trying to figure out how it's going to go, but that's positive. So the only thing is, you know, I still got to day-to-day make bills, you know. And these individuals in the LA scene, they don't think about that, you know. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to get you a nice contract one day. Well, I got to survive between now and then. So it's been a struggle for me, Mark, and you know that. But I try to keep my world small, as I might have said earlier, and I travel a lot. People think I'm rich because I travel a lot, but you know how I travel. I travel on the cheap. I'm on Frontier. You know, I'm fortunate I have a place down in Florida that I own, so I get to stay there. And then people put me up on their couch, and I'm willing.
Let me ask you a question that could be controversial. I don't want to put you on the spot.
Anything.
Something difficult, but I've asked people who have been through terribly traumatic, terrible things that have happened to them, and asked them, like, what's your biggest regret, or would you have changed your life if you could have? And they say, no, I wouldn't change a thing. And like, you were shot in the face, you lost half your brain and your eye, and you still said,
right,
you would take that because it's made you who you are.
Right.
Would you have changed what? I mean, I understand you did something wrong. You understand that.
Right.
But it made you who you are today.
Right.
Do you regret that, or do you wish you hadn't done it, or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, for me, it's a little more difficult because I know if I had done the right thing, I would have the life that I want today. How's that sound? Mm-hmm. But I believe that it made me a better person, what I did. If that can answer that more correctly. Because if I had done the right things all along, I wouldn't be the good person that I am today. That's a fact.
Yeah, that's a fact.
So that's
what I was saying earlier.
Yeah, that's why I'm moved to tears almost, Mark. That's why I'm glad I went through what I went through. And you know what? I have a family of 7 brothers and sisters, total, siblings. And my mother came to me after it was all over, and she said to me, "I'm glad it was you." And I looked at her like, what the fuck's wrong with me? She goes, "Because you could handle it." Like, in other words, if I had to have a child that went through this, I'm glad it was you. And I took that as a badge of honor in my home, right? I mean, what the hell? But yeah, I think that, to reiterate what we had just said, I think that it's important that I'm a better person for what I went through. Because if I had done the 20 and retired and got my pension, first of all, no one would really know me, right? Which is fine, because I really don't need the attention. Although part of this industry, you need to gather attention. Right, and you know that you have to have some attention, otherwise you don't exist. But for me, I love helping people, and so you need attention to help people, because if they don't know how to get to you or where you are, then it's now some people are a little rude and intrusive and have expectations beyond. And I know you know that. I mean, you walk down the street in LA, it's like this everywhere you go, for Christ's sakes.
Not that we're encouraging doing something criminal in your life.
No.
So you can become a better person.
No, not at all. Maybe you could. How's this? This is great, Mark. I'm glad you brought that up. How about this? How about we learn how to cut through that and take someone who inherently has the desire. So I'm a teacher. Really, I'm a teacher. But I never knew that. And that sort of pisses me off in a way. Like, why didn't I know that I was a teacher? I wanted to communicate with people.
Well, see, that's what I think we all are. I think we're all teachers. We're all therapists. We're all everything. You need to be everything in order to be a well-rounded person.
Yeah. But teacher, right? I mean, that's really what so I am a teacher today, right? Mm-hmm. I'm teaching people on a daily basis how to not do what I've done, try to be more like I am today, not necessarily, don't copy me because I'm not perfect, but if you want to get away from something and be more like somebody and people look up to me. I don't know why, but if they do, and you want to be a little bit more like me in a way. So I'll tell you a quick story. I hate to do this, but I digress. So I was in prison. Now you got to realize when you're in prison, things slow down. And when I'm in prison, I'm running an AA group in prison. And in comes this black gentleman, little light skin, handsome fella, educated. And I'm sitting in a room of 25 convicts, okay? And he just fell into the door. He's a fresh piece of meat coming in, right? But he's a well-spoken, he's a white-collar black guy. So a lot of people gravitate to that in prison because they want to know how and why and what he's done. But me, I give him the distance. I don't jump on his face and try to learn from him yet because I've been around a while now. I'm speaking in an AA meeting. At the end of the meeting, after the 3rd or 4th meeting he attended, he comes over to me and he says, Mike, I forget his name. I just want to tell you something. He goes, what's that? He goes, the way you speak in front of this group of people here, he says, you're fabulous. What, nothing but compliments. So I said to him, why are you telling me this? He says to me, because I wish I could speak like that in front of a group like this. And I'm looking at this guy who's in here for white collar, and listen, if anybody knows anything, white collar's big, right? Because you know that they use their brains to take money from someplace, or one place or another, all right? They didn't use their brute or their brawn. And so it actually, he, who was uncomfortable doing what I was doing, gave me a sense of confidence. And that's pretty cool. Like, even in prison, you can learn quite a bit. Well, I think everybody knows that, but the fact is, you can learn in a positive way. So here I am running an AA group in prison, thinking I'm just doing my time, getting these guys through their required meetings, and I'm being built up by some guy on the side, and he doesn't know he's building me up. So it was really, so there you go.
Mike, what would you say is the most important thing you've learned in your life?
Well, no one's ever asked me that question. The most important thing I've ever learned in my life. Love.
That's great. Perfect. It's the greatest answer ever. Mike Dowd, thank you so much.
Whoa, that was deep.
You're amazing.
You
as
are.
always. As
You
always.
are,